Hello, and you're welcome to Global Business Insights, where you get more and the main business headlines across the globe. Nigeria's economy advanced by 2.98% year on year in the first quarter of 2024, slightly lower than the GDP growth of 3.46% recorded in the final quarter of 2023, and far from the 3.38% projected by the central bank. Stocks in the US were climbing back after the three major indexes declined in the previous session, driven by rising bond yields and as confidence returned on digesting the data. And on data, the May reading of the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index fell to 69.1, slightly better than a preliminary reading of 67.4. Yields were up ahead of the long holiday weekend, and new orders for durable goods rose 0.7% in April, also higher than an expected 1% drop. In the UK, retail sales volumes also dropped 2.3% in April as wet weather dampened shopping appetite. And Anglo-American's largest shareholders are in support of efforts to persuade BHP to change the structure of its takeover proposal or compensate for the risks it presents. BHP has a deadline of May 29 as talks continue. President Biden says Kenya will be the first African country to benefit from funding from the multi-billion-dollar CHIPS Act. Microsoft G42 also announced a $1 billion comprehensive digital ecosystem initiative in Kenya, and another American company is building a motorway in Kenya as well. All at Kenyan President Ruto's latest state visit to Washington. Earlier in the morning, we got preliminary May PMIs for Europe, UK, and Germany showing steady improvements. And in the UK, the pound may have received a fresh boost, given that an interest rate cut by the Bank of England next month looks unlikely with July elections. The Bank of England has also cancelled all speeches and statements until after July elections, but says the MPC on June 20 will hold. Nigeria's economy grew at a slower than expected rate in the first quarter of 2024, advancing by 2.98%. This was lower than 3.46% growth recorded in the previous 3 months. Key contributors to slower growth were agriculture, due to bad weather and insecurity, and manufacturing, where profits have been knocked by an almost 70% slump in the naira against the dollar since last year. Still, it marks the 14th consecutive quarter of economic expansion. The oil sector was a bright spot as output rose to 1.57 million barrels a day in the period, up from 1.51 million barrels per day a year earlier. Minister of State for Petroleum, Heineken Lokpobiri, yesterday said that production is now at 1.7 million barrels per day from a low of 1.1 million barrels when Tinubu took office. He added that Nigeria hopes to further lift production by soon opening bids for a dozen oil blocks and concluding several divestment deals with international oil companies. The non-oil sector also grew 2.8% compared to 3.07% in Q4, mainly driven by the services sector, which recorded a growth of 4.32%. The central bank, at its latest Monetary Policy Committee meeting, had projected growth at 3.38%. The IMF projected 3.3% for 2024. So far, PMIs show tepid expansion, and the major headwinds show little signs of abating. The vision is to get growth back to over 6% as Nigeria emerges as a $1 trillion economy by 2030. Headwinds to growth include high inflation and the sharp increase in cost of borrowing, and the still unstable FX market plagued by inadequate supply and spooking confidence. Demand has also been eroded by high inflation and high interest rates. On FX markets, it was also reported that street sale of FX was banned. The challenge of extra-legal FX transactions can only be explained by leakages, official corruption, and inadequacy of existing official financial outlets, driving a major portion of the market to the much riskier street. Street traders with good sources of FX supply have strong links with existing banks and in some cases are fed through illegal channels from the apex bank. Indeed, there's still a lot of work for the central bank to do to sanitize the system. Black markets are also a symptom of pricing distortions as suppliers seek market-driven higher prices.
First, I'm proud to announce we're working with Congress to designate Kenya a major non-NATO ally. Second, we're deepening our economic cooperation. That means new partnerships with industry, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and cybersecurity companies. New initiatives to expand affordable internet all across East Africa. New education programs are going to bring Kenyan students to the United States.
The letter of intent will be signed today between Microsoft, G42, and Kenya for a package of digital investments with the assistance of the governments of the United States and the United Arab Emirates. This is part of Kenya's President William Ruto's state visit to the United States. G42 will lead the arrangement in collaboration with Microsoft and other stakeholders for an initial $1 billion state-of-the-art green data center to be built to run Microsoft Azure in a new East Africa cloud region. The initiative also includes local language AI model development and research, an East Africa Innovation Lab coupled with broad AI digital skills training, international and local connectivity investments, and collaboration with the government of Kenya to support safe and secure cloud services across East Africa. Definitely a win for Ruto, also at a time when Microsoft appeared to be reducing its footprint in Nigeria as part of a restructuring. Presenting itself as an ally to the US is yielding fruit for Kenya and can have immeasurable value at a time when we see more friendshoring and recalibration of business interests aligned to geoeconomic priorities. Governments are also taking more interest in where deals are done than we've seen before in the past, as geopolitical undertones are playing a larger role. Kenya is also moving fast in emerging as a knowledge economy in a more integrated East African region, which offers opportunities for investors. Biden must know, of course, that presently China is Kenya's largest trading partner with about 70% of foreign debts owed to China. Debt disputes has led to China taking control of the Mombasa port, and Kenya could also be made to give China control of the inland container depot in Nairobi. The visit created the opportunity to go after what Biden had always described as predatory Chinese lending practices. A slew of May preliminary PMI data came in yesterday for Europe, UK, and the US. S&P Global UK Manufacturing PMI rebounded from 49.1 in April to 51.3 in May, beating 49.5 expected. But services business activity fell to 52.9, below consensus of 54.7 and last month's 55. Chris Williamson, that's the chief business economist at S&P Global Market Intelligence, said the data signals further expansion and suggests that the UK economy continues to recover from the mild recession seen late last year. In the Eurozone, manufacturing PMI improved to 47.4 in May, better than expected from 45.7 in April, also reaching a 15-month high. Services PMI in the bloc was steady at 53.3, slightly below estimates. While in Germany, the Eurozone's economic powerhouse, manufacturing contraction slowed and services improved in the latest numbers. The manufacturing PMI came in at 45.4 this month, improving from April's 42.5, also above the expected 43.1 print. Services PMI hit an 11-month peak, up from 53.2 in April to 53.9 in May. Meanwhile, S&P news release said U.S. business activity growth accelerated sharply to its fastest for just over 2 years in May, signaling an improved economic performance midway through the second quarter. The S&P Global Manufacturing PMI increased to 50.9 in April from 50.0, signaling further expansion in the manufacturing sector. The Global Services PMI also rose to 54.8 from 51.3, reporting the largest output rise for a year. The data was said to be putting the US economy on course for another solid GDP gain in Q2. There is a trend in all these major blocks of modest economic rebound, which will be evident in Q2 GDP data. As the UK braced for elections in early July, the Bank of England has cancelled all speeches and political statements by policymakers during the campaign period. The June 20 interest rate decision meeting will still hold, but individual members of the Monetary Policy Committee will not speak publicly until after the elections on July 4th. The timing of announcements of July elections on the day that the UK was announcing inflation plunging may be designed to milk improving macroeconomic stability, providing relief for voters. The economy is likely to be a very major campaign pillar in a race where the Prime Minister's Conservative Party is today seen as unlikely to win. Google is building what will be the first subsea fiber optic cable connecting the continents of Africa and Australia. The work on channeling the cable across the Indian Ocean to Perth, Australia is now underway. This is as Google plays catch up with Amazon Web Services and Microsoft's Azure, all eyeing opportunities in the untapped African region. The new cable-dubbed Umoja will start in Kenya and runs through various countries, including the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, before concluding its journey in South Africa, also home to Google's first African data center region. Google's announcement responds to frequent outages across Africa attributed to faulty undersea cables, and Google may want to step in to provide resilient connectivity, leveraging this to nurture a competitive advantage in a still nascent market. European markets retreated, mirroring a global trend as the US interest rate outlook weighed on sentiment. Also, the blue chip Dow and the S&P 500 were set to snap 4 straight weeks of gains as inflation concerns rekindled caution on monetary policy. Nasdaq, however, is on course for a slim weekly gain thanks to Nvidia results, providing some fresh fuel to the AI-driven technology rally. Looking at stocks in Nigeria, where we just saw modest GDP growth, the all-share index is down 0.37%, while the Johannesburg Exchange all-share index is up 0.25%. Looking at other European stocks, we can see that the DAX, as we speak, is up 0.02%. FTSE 100 is down 0.19%, while the CAC 40 also down 0.07%. And now to US stocks, where it's looking much brighter than what we saw yesterday. Nasdaq is up 1.07%, Dow 30 is up 0.31%, S&P 500 up 0.75%, helping the Nasdaq there. Nvidia up 0.52%, AMD up 3.58%, while Microsoft is also up 0.67%. Well, that's it from me on Global Business Insights. This is Podio Shasami. Please share, kindly follow on Facebook and LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube and X. Thank you very much for watching and following. Enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye.